Hey guys, welcome back to Pistons Talk Podcast. Hope you guys are having a great Saturday evening. We are joined by a very special guest, Hunter Patterson from the Athletic that does cover your Detroit Pistons. Hunter, how's it going, man?
I'm doing well. I appreciate you. We talked about it a little bit before, but I may or may not have overslept just a bit, so I appreciate the grace that you gave me there.
Yeah, I mean, like at the end of the day, I wasn't doing shit anyways. Like I literally was like, you know what? Am I gonna get suckered into watching the Royal Rumble right now? And I was just like,
Okay.
probably not. I mean, like I have not watched wrestling in quite a bit, but so many Pistons fans are wrestling fans, which it's kind of cool to see. But we're gonna have a really good show. But before we kind of get into the trading deadline things, I actually wanted to ask you something because I do follow you on Instagram, and I saw that you were posted up at the Houston Airlines. Like, what was going on there?
So we boarded, and this was a day after we had been snowed in Houston, and so we had boarded the plane. There weren't any issues, and so we're all kind of just like sitting on the tarmac, and we're just like, "What's taking so long?" Then the pilot gets on the intercom, and he says that there's a few extra bags that they're able to put on the plane. So because of that, they're gonna let like a few customers who weren't able to make the flight onto the plane, which obviously like you're super lucky if the door closes and opens back up. So people are getting on the plane, and then we still sit there for like 20 or 30, or not 20 or 30. We still probably are there for like 15 more minutes. And then the pilot says that one of the crew members who was loading the luggage onto the plane had hurt himself. So then we're like pushing 45 minutes in total. At this point, we see a fire truck pull up. I'm right by the window, and I'm not really laughing. It's not funny, but we see like a fire truck pull up, and then there's like two more, and I'm like, what is happening right now? And then, like we were there for about an hour and 15 minutes after we were supposed to be. Someone had gotten hurt under the belly of the plane, loading luggage on. I think he got his leg caught in the belt that gets the luggage onto the plane. And like it was like a movie scene. I didn't see him actually get into the ambulance, but all I see is just like feet going into the ambulance, and then people like celebrating, like we got him, he's all right. And so I actually missed the game in Atlanta because of that. We were going from Houston to Atlanta, and I had to fly to Atlanta the same day, and I landed around the time the game started. So that's the only game that I've missed since I've been in Detroit, and I was so bummed out about it. But thankfully, the guy under the plane was apparently doing well.
Kate's cousin Ashton said you knew that was you on the plane.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. Shout out Ashton.
Yeah, we gotta talk about that because I cannot believe that.
Yeah, like I saw it, I was like, man, I said, what the hell's going on? Because like honestly, it was like a movie. Because you're like, oh, like. It was like 5 minutes and like 45 minutes. And I was just like, bro, like, what the hell's going on? Like,
yeah, and I'm naturally kind of like a goofy person, but obviously if there's that many like ambulance trucks and fire trucks, it was a serious thing. And I'm like trying not to be too goofy or how I kind of usually am, but it was crazy.
No, it was definitely entertaining. I mean, I think the craziest thing that's ever happened to me on a plane is this guy decided I'm gonna smoke a cigarette while we're like already like 30,000 feet, and like you never know who's a cop,
right?
And he just so happened to light up his cigarette right next to the cop.
Damn.
Pretty sure the cop dislocated his shoulder, like flicking out the cigarette. I was like, yo, what the?
That's crazy.
Pretty crazy, but yeah, man. Like I was like watching your stories. I was like, dude, that's honestly wild. Like I was just thinking of like all the like crazy stuff that has ever happened to me, like on a flight before. But sucks you got to.
Yeah, I was just gonna say last thing. It was an eventful just road trip. My very last flight from Indiana home was a pilot of 26 years. It was his very last flight. He was retiring, and so it was cool. It was like a cool moment for him. But yes, enough plane talk.
Yeah, for sure. I did want to kind of like get your thoughts on like the Indiana Pacers and the Detroit Pistons games. Like, what were the vibes like? Because I know a lot of fans on social media um, that they want this rivalry to be a thing. But I mean, you were in Indiana. Like, what was the atmosphere like down there?
It was ironic, and we were talking about Royal Rumble earlier, but it was just ironic that they had the WWE night the same night that the Pistons were there, and I think they played each other a few weeks ago here in Detroit when it seemed like they didn't really like each other. They got into it at the end of the game, and I remember in the press conference, someone asked Duran how he felt, and like I've never seen any of the players just like look directly at PR, like as if like I can't say what I want to right now. And so Duran is like 21 but super mature and like definitely knows how to do like the PR answers and things like that. So he was really selective in what he said, but it's obvious that it was obvious that they couldn't wait to play the Pacers. And so we get there, it's WWE night. It was funny because they had like the same belt that the Pistons had, and I like tweeted about it. And there were a couple people who were like, bro, every single team in the NBA has that. Like, how could you not know? And I was like, damn, my bad, y'all. Like, sorry, I'm not keeping up with their WWE belts for each team. But yeah, it was obvious like from the beginning, those teams, I don't think the guys really are big fans of each other necessarily. And
no.
I personally, as a basketball fan, and I like stuff like that. Like, it's cool that the guys are friends and grow up playing AAU and stuff together. But when there are like rivalries that don't really result in like violence or anything, it's just like these dudes don't like each other. That's fun to watch to me.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people got fixated on like the Thomas Bryant, Isaiah Stewart stuff, but like, I think what people don't understand is both of those guys are from Rochester, New York. One of Stewart's trainers had like reached out to me. He's like, man, those two have known each other since they were kids. He's like, just a veteran move by Thomas Bryant. He's like, he probably said something to Zay to like really get under his skin, and that's why he shoved him. But I mean, like, just like the Halliburton, like making fun of Malik Beasley with the shimmy. Tim Hardaway Jr. and Pascal Siakam, every game, it's always something. Like they're always jawing at each other. But I haven't seen that kind of basketball probably since I was a kid, like 12 years old.
Yeah, it's definitely fun to watch. They don't seem like they like each other. There was like a point. Oh yeah, about Thomas and Isaiah. It seemed like throughout the game they were like kind of casually talking. Like I saw them talking throughout the game, and it didn't look like it would result in what it did. So that kind of surprised me a little bit. And it's always interesting with Stu because behind the scenes, he's, I kid you not, one of the nicest people on the team. He's like a super caring person. And so I think he's just really intense when he plays. But Stu is a great guy.
Yeah, I've heard that from like multiple people that like probably the nicest guy like on the team. But you know something wild had to be said for like Stu to basically lay him out. But there was some good acting by Thomas Bryant too.
Right.
I mean, you're almost 260 pounds and you're flopping like he just clotheslined you. Like, come on, man, what are you doing?
I feel that.
Yeah, it's honestly well. I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on it. Like I even though like they lost that game, that felt like a playoff game to me. Like this, the intensity. But this the shit talking, the way the Pacers were up 20, they came back down 10. It's just it was really entertaining. That's probably like my favorite game this week, even though they lost. It was just like I miss basketball like that.
Yeah, it was just a good game. It didn't seem like one that the Pistons really ever had control of. I remember the flow of that game just sucked because there were a lot of reviews, texts, things like that. But it was definitely a fun game to watch.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if you saw Michael Scotto from Hoops Hype. He did like I guess an exclusive one-on-one interview with like Malik Beasley and kind of like talking to him. You're on the team every day. I don't know if you had a chance to read that piece by him, but do you want to kind of like piggyback on like anything he said in terms of like Malik said that championship teams want him and him and Train should have an understanding. Do you know anything behind the scenes that Possibly there could be a deal for Malik Beasley. Could you see him, lasting throughout this trade deadline?
Yeah, I don't know anything behind the scenes. I actually
Mhm.
had a pretty long conversation with Malik today for something, but he's really a good dude. I've talked to him before about just his connection to Detroit, and he has like in one way or another like family ties in Detroit. So before he was even in the NBA, he was like familiar with the city as far as I know, and he seems to really love it here. So I think if it were up to him, he would continue on with where he's at. And yeah, I'm not sure about anything past that though.
Yeah, I'm probably paraphrasing from the article. I probably should have just asked Mike myself, but like, who knows how busy he is?
Right.
Honestly, we're like personal friends on Facebook, and like
Yeah.
he's like, hey, I wrote a Pistons article, check it out. But paraphrasing from his article, basically said that Malik wants to stay here, but I think it's kind of difficult, and maybe some fans aren't aware that the Pistons don't have his bird rights because he signed a one-year deal. He'll be a UFA, and then like the cap space situation for Detroit can be a little tricky. They could possibly offer him a mid-level exception if he wants to take that, but you could have contending teams like OKC and Houston possibly try to sign him this summer. So I just kind of like want to caution fans, like it's not like an automatic that he may or may not resign here. But to piggyback off your point, one of my friends, Corey, who did cover the Pistons, but he got promoted like full time to cover the Lions for MLive.
Nice.
He did some videography for Malik, and he told Corey that his mom was from the 7 Mile area, and they have Detroit ties, and he always used to come up. He always used to come up here in the summer and hang out with his cousins from his mom's side. So there's definitely some Detroit swagger in there, like the shit talking. I remember the home opener I went to, like he was talking shit to Benedict Mathurin. Him and Ron Holland were like basically just like taunting him like crazy. But I feel like he's a fan favorite though. Like so many fans love him.
Yeah, I think he just does like a lot for the team kind of behind the scenes as well. Like he's the one who is constantly on video games and like Call of Duty, and he's like rounding up the guys to get them to play. And so I think he's kind of like connective tissue low key of the team in a certain way where he gets like a lot of people together.
Yeah, just you can't call him Unc. He gets upset over that. I've been told not to call him uncle, which
that's like we were talking earlier, and I'm like, it's crazy that you're a vet, and I think he's like 28. I'm 28, and so it's funny.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm 32, and like one of my friends is just like, "How old is Tobias?" I was like, 32. He's like, "No." I'm like, yeah. He's just like, he's the same old as your old ass. I was like, yeah, he's 32. Like 32 is not old, but I guess like if you're talking like a basketball years, it's considered old or a veteran. But 28 should not be considered a veteran. Like you're in the prime of your career. That's honestly wild. But I think that a lot of people these next couple of topics they're going to be very engaged with. I actually made a list this past week of just trade targets, and I kind of wanted to get your reaction to it. We can go through these players, or if there's a certain player that you want to zero on in and maybe you think it's a possibility. We have Bobby Portis, DeAndre Hunter, Lonzo Ball, Kelly Oubre Jr., Cameron Thomas, Malcolm Brogdon, Mike Conley, Anthony Simons, CJ McCollum, or Colin Sexton.
This is a good list. I think right off the bat, the name that I'd look at right away is just Lonzo, because I am a firm believer that the team needs a secondary ball handler and someone who can kind of take pressure off Cade. And Cade makes it look great, obviously, like he did last night. But there are lulls sometimes where either he's out of the game or if he's being blitzed and different things like that. So Lonzo, I think, could be a good option. Obviously, there's the injury history there with Lonzo. I think he's like also around my age, I want to say. I think Lonzo's like 28, 27-ish. Let me see. 27. So I think he is still on the younger side. I think it was like his meniscus or something. I know he has like severe knee issues, so I don't know how long that'll last. But yeah, he's the first person I would say. Ant Simons is great too, but I still want Cade to like not have someone who is as ball dominant as him. Like it would be clear that Lonzo is like filling a specific role. So
yeah, I feel like Lonzo makes too much sense. To the point where I'm like, there's no way. Because like I'm to the point where I'm listening to, NBA podcasts way too much. You're like a Brian Windhorst say he might get bought out because there's no trade market for him, which I mean, like 20 million expiring is kind of high, but I mean, to your point, like when Cade does go to the bench, no knock at Marcus Sasser. I think they're playing him out of position. Like, I think if you were able to get Alonzo and still have Marcus Sasser on your team, you could play Sasser off ball, which I think the Pistons have been doing a little bit more as of late with Cade out there, kind of experimenting with those two in the backcourt together. But Lonzo would be really high on my list. The other guys, like Cameron Johnson's just a wish list thing for me because I feel like he would make so much sense, but like the asking price seems like 2 first-round picks, and I feel like the Grizzlies are going to be all in on him. I don't know why. Yeah. I just feel like they've been in the market for a forward for quite some time, and they've struck out, like, I want to say the past 3 deadlines of trying to just dangle, future draft picks, and the teams just don't want to deal with them. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I'm like I said a few minutes ago, I'm really like on the younger side of things if I were to be like in the GM seat. So I'm like, again, Colin Sexton is someone who's not too old at all. He's like a young veteran, and I know he's someone who plays hard. I think he's become a better shooter. He's not great, but I think he could just be another really good like ball handler. You would trust him to either create for himself or others, and he's on the younger side a little bit. So and I feel like he just plays hard defensively as well. So yeah, those two.
He played for JB too in Cleveland.
Forgot about that.
That's the reason why I did put it on here, because I feel like when Ivy does come back, he's already playing off the bench in Utah. So like he probably wouldn't have that big of a like deal of like, hey, like, Ivy's coming back, you're going back to the bench to be a backup. I feel like the ego thing with him is like so far past gone, because he's already on a rebuilding team in Utah right now. So I feel like the fit with him would probably be pretty seamless, and he's a pretty good on-ball defender from what I've watched. Very limited. I'm not out there watching Utah Jazz games, even though I did see that they were smacking the Orlando Magic around, which hey, it's kind of funny. But I mean, like, other than that, I think a lot of these guys I named, like DeAndre Hunter, that's another wish list thing. Who knows what the Hawks do with Jalen Johnson being out for the remainder of the year? They may look to like field calls on him. I know during Ausar's draft in 2023, they had offered DeAndre Hunter for the 5th pick, and the Pistons said no. Obviously, Ausar and Trae Young together. Yeah, you could hide. Yeah, you could hide Trae Young on defense, kind of like how Dyson Daniels is doing that right now. But I mean, a lot of these guys are just wish lists. Bobby Portis, I think the only reason why I put him in there is because KOC did like a 5-team like trade proposal that involved Jimmy Butler, and I was like, Bobby Portis and Isaiah Stewart would just be menaces off the bench.
Yeah, I think I guess I kind of didn't really think much about the big men on this list. Because for one, I'm like, I just think Paul Reed like makes so many of the right plays. Like yesterday, for example, he obviously got more minutes because Stu was suspended, and he just makes the right reads a lot of times as like the short roller in certain situations. Like his shot may look interesting, but he works on that consistently. And so I like Paul Reed. I think he does some good things and just doesn't really have much opportunity. But Bobby Portis is a dog, and I'm a fan of his as well.
Yeah, I mean, like Bobby Portis just kind of has all that DNA as a Piston, and him being able to stretch the floor, I think, is something that's really appealing defensively. Obviously, he's not playing the same as he was because Doc Rivers is coaching, and Doc's a little bit more defensive minded versus a Mike Budenholzer. But I've been a fan of Bobby for quite some time. Malcolm Brogdon is another one. I think I mentioned it to you last time you were in December. Like, I've been keeping an eye on Washington because who knows what the hell they're going to do.
Right.
I think they're like on a 16 or 17 game losing streak right now. I feel like yeah, like he makes sense as a backup guard, but the contract is similar to Lonzo. Like, they're both 20 million expiring, but you know, the ball handling, being a vet, playing for championship caliber teams like the Bucks and the Celtics. His thing is just health, and like how healthy could he possibly be? But yeah, this list took me way too long to make.
This is a good list, though. I like this list.
Honestly, I think it took me like a good 2 hours. I went on Fanspo and just looked at like under the radar guys, because a lot of people wanted me to put like Brandon Ingram. Why isn't he on?
Yeah, right.
I was like, I don't think I can talk about Brandon Ingram anymore. Talked about him, I think, all summer, and I got to the point I was just like, yeah, I can't talk about Brandon Ingram anymore, you guys. It's just don't know what to tell you. I know there's been like some reporting of the Detroit Pistons possibly being buyers at this deadline. Like, what do you make of it? Because I feel like you can kind of read in between the lines. Like, do you feel they'll be buyers for the right type of player, or do you think they'll just be buyers no matter what, trying to improve the team, even if it does maybe kind of get into their cap space, fall into the summer possibly?
I would imagine they would be more buyers of assets in a sense. So I don't know if they are going to be huge buyers of maybe guys who might be more expensive and things like that. But Trajan to me just seems like really calculated. He seems he seems like someone who does not make like panic decisions or rushing into things. And so again, I think he would kind of play it more cool and not break this group up based on everything that they've done so far. But again, if there's a trade that comes across that he can't deny, I'm sure he'll act on that. But yeah, I see him being more kind of stand paddish.
Yeah, because I know I'm sure you see it in like the articles that you write over at the Athletic, like the comment section with Pistons fans, and how passionate and kind of crazy they get sometimes.
I'll go passionate. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, like they're probably the most passionate bunch of fans that you'll probably come across. But I think sometimes when fans see the word buyers, they look at all the big names, the disgruntled stars. Like we talked about Jimmy Butler to the Pistons. I've even seen some national guys to say like, why not like THJ and a couple seconds to Miami? Like, I don't think Jimmy on the Pistons would be a good idea. Like, if you would have told me that 5 years ago, and like, I'm like, oh yeah, like that seems like Tom Gore's put all the chips on the table and like compete for the playoffs. But I feel like where they're at, they're in a good position. I don't see like big names like a Jimmy, Malik and Ingram, but hey, you never know. Apparently with the Pelicans, like, well, I don't know what's really going on there with, you know, DeJounte getting injured, being out for the remainder of the season. I think I saw a wild stat with them that like none of their starting five, I think, even played a game together, which is just crazy.
Yeah, I saw. I think Will he covers the Pelicans and does some Heat stuff for us at the Athletic. He said something yesterday about this season specifically. I think Ingram, Zion, and DeJounte never got like one game on the court or something. I don't really watch them enough to know, but I think that's what he said, something along those lines.
That's honestly wild that like that actually happened. because they have so much talent, and
Yeah.
it's like I actually thought them to be like a sneaky playoff team with getting Murray.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows what happens with Zion? He looks like he's in better shape, but like, and maybe they can get a good draft pick out of it. I don't even know if they have their draft pick this year. Who knows? But it's just it's kind of wild. I think what I would say to like fans that are expecting to be buyers is I think they'll make a move if it makes sense contractually and if there's some assets attached, but I don't see them like pulling off like a Blake Griffin trade like they did the last time that they were competitive. Like,
yeah.
And I feel like it's a completely different situation.
Yeah, like with them teetering kind of back and forth between I think they're back in 6th or were earlier today. And so it kind of goes back and forth. Like a couple games you lose can really drop you and things. But yeah, I think if you see that this team has the potential to make the playoffs without having to even go the play-in route with what they have now, I personally would just be hesitant to tinker with the lineup or the roster because it's like they won 14 games last year, and if you give them the time, they can potentially be in the playoffs without the play-in. That feels like a great turnaround, and I'm not sure anyone that they get at the deadline would necessarily, if they do make the playoffs, even if they don't win the series, I'm not sure someone that they pick up at the deadline would put them so much past where they could be on their own with what they have now, essentially. So
I feel like even though this team is much improved, they have so many flaws on this team. Like I feel like in the front court, they're small.
Yeah.
I feel like if you went up against a team like Milwaukee or even Boston, for example, like if you made the playoffs, Boston would expose that with like a Al Horford, a Luke Cornett, Kristaps Porzingis. Like, it's not me crapping on the team. They're a lot better, but there's just so much flaws on this team, especially with the the second unit not really having a secondary primary ball handler to lead that unit. That was Jaden Ivey's job, but I mean, like he's obviously not healthy. I did see that he's in a walking boot, which is good news. Good to see him actually on the bench. I tweeted something out. I feel like an idiot. So I saw that he was like on the bench, and like Pistons fans they're funny. They're like, did Monty Williams tweet this? I was like, good to see Jaden Ivey on the bench. And I was like,
oh god,
oh my god,
that's crazy.
I was like, oh my god, I feel like a piece of crap after that. But I did get a good laugh out of that. I was like, oh my god, that's actually really hilarious. Oh man. We do have another kind of like trading deadline topic. So there's also been like reporting from like people like Shams talking about they could be facilitators. Now I know there's a lot of disgruntled stars. If you have like Bradley Beal, Jimmy Butler, Zach LaVine, possibly, I don't know. But could you see them being facilitators in trades? And like, what do you think that they're possibly looking for? Do you think it's draft picks, maybe, under the radar rotational players?
Yeah, I think that this is again kind of along the lines of like the being buyers like in the right situation thing that we just talked about, because if they can get like a pick out of it or potentially a player that they see as someone that can help them in this time without Jaden, and not necessarily like a long-term piece, if they just can get someone to help right now, then possibly. But again, like my baseline in Trajan, I've had a few interactions with him. He's really cool and everything. He just seems so calculated that I can't see him making a move that would put the team at a disadvantage either now or in the future. So he just seems very calculated. And if they can get picks out of this, like we said, or someone who can be a holdover for this season, I think so.
Yeah, it's weird because like you read reports, it's like they want to be buyers. Wait a minute, we want to be sellers too.
Yeah, right.
It's like that they're dipping their toe in like each market, so it's probably really confusing. Like as a fan trying to like pinpoint of like what they're going to do. I'm sure even, organizations and front offices are probably like kind of questioning what the Pistons want to do. But I would probably say like, I feel like Trajan's first trade, if you want to look back at it, because we did play the Dallas Mavericks last night. You got Tim Hardaway Jr. for taking on his contract, and you got 3 seconds. Could you see like that in terms of them being a facilitator, like trades like that possibly is kind of like what they're looking for?
Probably, yeah. Like I just don't see them like doing anything that'll shake up the kind of nucleus that they have of like Cade, Duren, Ausar, even throwing Isaiah Stewart in there. I just don't see them doing anything that could compromise it. And if you could bring in a guy like Tim Hardaway, or if you can kind of get picks in return, like I think that would be something they'd be all for.
Yeah, it's so hard to gauge because like 1 minute, and obviously there's 5 days left of this trading deadline season. I don't know how many more trade machines from Spot Track on my timeline I can take. Honestly, like I don't even know how this person did it, but they did a 2019 trade and got to go through.
That's crazy.
I was just like, you know what? I'm not even pissed at this. Like, how long did this take?
Right.
And like, he had picks going out. Like, I was like, how?
That's crazy.
Like, I know. It's like trading like whole rosters, like LeBron to Charlotte, Anthony Davis to like San Antonio. I was just like, man, like some people with trade machines are like, I don't understand their brain. Like they know salary cap, draft pick, second apron, first.
Yeah.
I still don't understand the new CBA. It confuses the hell out of me.
That's very much, there's like areas where I'm like trying to keep being like more polished and things. And those are like the CBA, the second apron, things like that. I definitely am in that process of like polishing up.
So I had a follower want me to ask you a question because he did follow your work before you were the Pistons beat reporter. Like since you did cover the Kings a little bit, how surprised are you with the Aaron Fox stuff as of late?
Yeah, I remember seeing that Shams tweet about De'Aaron essentially saying that he wanted to be traded, and this was I think we were in Cleveland at the time, and I was getting food, and I see it on TV, and I text one of my closest friends who still covers the Kings, and I was like, what? Like I couldn't believe it, because De'Aaron has said throughout the season and even like toward the end of last year that he wants to be in a situation where he feels the team is committed to being competitive before he signs an extension. And he was really close with Mike. Mike gets fired. DeRozan being brought in obviously helped. He's a great player, but I just don't know how happy De'Aaron was, and for it to finally like reach a boiling point like that was crazy. So, and I've still watch the Kings all the time. I literally have the game on right now. They're playing the Thunder. But yeah, that'd be insane if De'Aaron gets moved.
Yeah, it's like I heard like, like you hear stuff talking to people. Like I always heard like there was interest with San Antonio because of Wembanyama. And I was just like, maybe that's his rumors. Like you hear stuff sometimes. And then like when it comes out, like everything that's happened to Sacramento, like like this season, I thought, adding DeRozan, you still have some bonus. You have some, interesting pieces. Like they were going to be a team in the Western Conference to compete for a playoff spot. But I mean, didn't expect them to have the season that they did the first, 20 or so games, and then firing Mike Brown like out of nowhere. Like the firing of Mike Brown still puzzles me. Like you fired him on the way to the airport. Like what?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
It's crazy because Mike, my first year around the team was Mike's first year there, and it seemed like the players loved him. It seemed like De'Aaron was always kind of like going to bat for him, and it seemed just like it happened so quickly that things were not good anymore. So I don't know what happened, but it sucks. I like the Kings. I like being from California, I hope they can figure it out, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's a wild situation because I don't feel like they're a team though, like where they have to like blow it up or even retool.
Yeah.
I mean, Doug Christie's doing a good job. Like they're playing a lot better. Like I don't understand like all of this, like, you know, possibly trading him to the Spurs and then like I don't know if you saw it, some Pistons fans, it's like, hey, we'll take Chris Paul. When it gets into a trade, I was like,
yeah,
wow.
that's funny. That's a good one.
I don't know, man. Like the Sacramento thing was weird. I did want to, you know, bring it up to you because I know you did cover the Kings for a little bit and there was kind of like that connection there, but that's wild. I still don't understand like what's going on with them, but I didn't think they were going to make any moves, maybe like small moves, but like nothing like drastic, like trading your best player.
Yeah. I know De'Aaron's from Texas. I'm not sure exactly where. I think Houston. But so, yeah, I guess it's just like a matter of him wanting to be in his home state and playing with like possibly one of the best players to ever play in Wemby. He's ridiculous. So,
yeah, those two would definitely be deadly. I don't even know what San Antonio would like trade Sacramento. I'd assume they would probably trade Stephon Castle, which
probably have to.
I would hold on to Stephon if I could.
Yeah,
that kid's gonna be a dog. Like,
yeah, he's nice. I like him.
He's so aggressive. I've never seen a rookie that aggressive before.
He's good.
Let's see. There's a question. Ron Harper. I don't know. You were probably sleeping, but one of the Pistons.
Yeah, I just one more time. Like I see people are like, we finally started. Like why? During Rumble, I'm like, my bad, y'all. I really fell asleep. I had the alarm set, but my issue was I closed the blinds and I did not get up on my alarm. So I woke up, texted Anthony. I was like, damn, bro, like my bad, and that's on me. My bad.
Yeah, it's like I said. I've literally I don't even think I told this. One of my friends, Sean. He's like a credential reporter. I think he was at LCA in the media room yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I went on his podcast about 3 weeks ago. He's like, yeah, man, come on the podcast. I'm like, cool. I said, what time? He's like, 10. I was like, AM? He's like, yeah. You know, we wake up in the morning. I was like, okay, cool. And dead ass, I woke up at 10:05 and he's like, hey, just getting set up. And like, I didn't even like brush my hair, put a hat on, brush my teeth real quick. I was like, holy crap, I almost slept through this.
Yeah, man. So I'm glad you can kind of relate a little bit. So I apologize.
Oh, it's all good, man. I think I told you before, like I invited someone on and they were 45 minutes late and they're like, yo, want to do it next week? And I was like, yeah, sure. And he did it again. I was like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, this is just a classic. I fell asleep. The sleep was good. It was good. I see the comment. But yeah, it's my bad. Not happening again.
Yeah, it happens, man. Like I can't imagine being on the road for 11 days and then like trying to function. Like I'd be drinking a whole pot of coffee just.
I was about to say a ton of caffeine for sure.
There are some, questions for you. If you're comfortable with answering them, they're just like trade questions. This comes from Coach Dreadhead. So what do you think of Tim Hardaway Jr. and a second-round pick to the Clippers for Man in Bones Highland?
That to me, I just feel like Terrence Mann, I think would obviously be like the guy that you're going for in that deal. I actually really like Bones' game too. He just didn't really get like a chance or didn't work out in Denver, LA, whole nine. But I just don't think that this would be a deal that would make them like significantly better, if at all. So Tim is a guy who's like great for the locker room. The team loves him. And I'm just thinking like Terrence Mann, I'm not sure how much of it like could possibly get in Ausar's way. But I do like Bones a lot, so I'm not really sure. I'm not sure.
I feel like Bones Highland and Marcus Sasser would just be the Spider-Man meme.
Yeah, pretty much.
They're like
so herky jerky with how he plays, though.
Yeah, I mean they're so similar. Terrence Mann, I feel like kind of under the radar. But what I will say is I've heard from other Pistons beat reporters that THJ definitely has that aux cord in practice.
Yeah, I'm trying to like the one who is literally always. He literally carries a big ass speaker with him throughout the locker room is Jalen Duren. So
yeah,
he's like the main music guy.
Yeah, I know they were roasting Simone because they don't like listening to Italian music. They're like, yeah, we're good, bro.
Yeah, he's he gets the aux sometimes too, though. So I like that.
Shout out to Simone. Let's see. If the Pistons, let me go by team. Okay, yeah, that's just a crazy question. I'm not even gonna get into that, you guys. That's where some of the questions get kind of wild in here. Ingram or nobody, we're not getting Brandon Ingram. Like I would just tell fans, like, if it was gonna happen, it probably would have happened this summer when we got Trajan. Like,
yeah,
because the asking price for him was, from what I was told from Pelicans guys that I know that cover the team, was lower. I mean, Utah was willing to go for him, but he wasn't willing to resign in Utah. Just for, I don't know. I feel like Utah, up and coming team. They had Laurie. They didn't have him signed yet to a long-term deal. But I don't know. I feel like if he does go anywhere, it's probably going to be Toronto. I don't know if you saw Zion post on his Instagram with the picture of RJ Barrett.
Yeah, and I was like, people were like, "Oh my god!" And I'm like, they played in college together. They seem like friends. Like, I don't know if that's that big a deal, but
I mean, it could be cryptic. You never know. It's just like playing together again. It's just like sending BI to Toronto for like RJ Barrett and some pieces. You never know. I really want Aldama from Memphis. He's low key pretty good. I'm not even gonna lie. Like
I am a big Santi fan because like the past few years in fantasy basketball, I've had him on my team. So I like how he plays. I watch him a lot. He's like stretch 4 or 5. I'm not really sure which he goes by, but yeah, I'm a huge fan of Santi. He would definitely help stretch the floor.
This is probably the first year I've not played fantasy basketball.
Oh man, yeah, I love it.
I was getting sick of beating people's ass.
We need to get you in this league then, bro.
I did. So James Edwards, who obviously you know who that is. He did a fantasy league with Athletic subscribers. And too many people signed up. So we did like, I'm not even exaggerating. It was like a 20-person draft.
Wow.
And by the time, like, every time it was to my pick, I was like, yeah, I'm going to get this player. And then, like, maybe 2-3 picks before me, someone drafted him. And I'm just looking at my team. Like, my best player was, like, Lauri Markkanen. I was like, how am I going to win this, man? Like, it was wild. But, yeah, those Athletic. I'm trying to remember who won that title. I'm going to have to. I'll have to ask James who eventually won that. I think it might have been him and somebody else because there were like 2 separate leagues. We could
definitely fire that up for next season. I didn't even think about that, but next season we could get a league on.
Yeah, just have some of the subscribers maybe put like $10 in for a pool, and whoever wins it at the end of the year put $10 in. And like someone's gonna be winning maybe like $100 or so at the end of the year. But like
that'd be cool.
Man, I'm still remembering the year that I had Westbrook and Harden in the same fantasy draft.
Damn, that sounds like a lot of winning.
Yeah, because I traded Eric Bledsoe and then he tore his knee like 2 days later.
Damn.
I had Kemba Walker and Eric Bledsoe for Russ, and then that was it. That was just like, yeah. We'll do one more question from Bravo, and then we can wrap this up. Shout out to Bravo. Hopefully you're not doing any funny thing about Bravo. I used to do podcasts with him, and he's a doctor. He would literally leave his patients and come on my podcast and talk for like 40 minutes while patients are in the other room. So hope you're doing well, Bravo. Do the Pistons must fill the cap space by the deadline in order to avoid staying under the cap space for too long? I think they're exactly where they need to be after restructuring Paul Reed, correct?
Yeah, that was like kind of, I guess, the impetus of the deal. They wanted to like get below the salary floor, so they weren't having to. Yeah, I guess they wanted to like get below the floor, and they were able to do that.
Yeah, so I think they're already there in terms of like being at the salary floor. They still have, I think, 14 million in cap space and an open roster spot. So I don't really know what type of deals they're looking for. I don't think anybody knows personally, but I think the next 5 days or so will be interesting. Is there anything you want to possibly talk about or touch on before we wrap this up?
Not really. I think I'm of the side where people are like blockbuster trade. We need people, or like the keep things together side. I'm more like just let them play. Like they're 6th seed right now. I don't know. It's just like if they can be 6th seed right now, like let this group continue to build on what they've done after winning 14 games last season. And then if you're in the playoffs without having to do the play-in, like what more could you ask for essentially after last season? So
yeah, I mean, I think Vegas had this team as like a 26 or 27 and a half win team, and they're at 24 right now. And so
yeah, imagine taking that futures bet like how many ever months ago, and you're like chilling now for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a bet for the Super Bowl that I can't believe it's a damn bet. Like I was laughing. It's like a plus 1,000 if Travis Kelce proposes to Taylor Swift. I was like,
oh
bro,
God,
what are we doing?
Yeah, the fact that you can even bet on that is crazy.
Shout out to Bovado, man. Like they're honestly, they have a freaking prop for anything, I swear.
Yeah, that's like they're like, yeah, you want to like give us your money, we'll take it.
Yeah, I do agree with you though. I don't think like you have to make anything drastic. You could improve the team without like really mortgaging the future. I think just like a backup point guard, I think would do wonders for this team. And I think some fans would be like, oh my God, like that's all we needed to possibly get to that 5 seed and match up with the 4 or 5 seed in the playoffs. Like I honestly think Trajan's going to be very calculative. It's not going to do anything that would possibly like mess up what they do long term in terms of just like cap flexibility, because I feel like they have so many, like their front office, I feel like is kind of like an all-star team front office. Like they have so many guys in there that are, seasoned vets, like Dennis Lindsey, who was in Utah for several years. He basically stole Michael Blackstone, who is the cap space guy from what I was told. So I mean, like there's a lot of good guys in that front office, and I think that what I would just tell fans over these next 5 days, don't expect like a Levine, don't expect a Devin Booker. I just saw, why don't we get Booker? You don't want that conversation.
Yeah,
because if you want Booker, you're probably giving up everyone but Cade Cunningham.
And I also think about just like with the second apron and everything, I don't even think Cade's contract, his extension has really kicked in yet. And so Cade is going to be making like around $50 million. Ausar, his time is going to be coming to make money. He's going to be an expensive player as well. J.I., he's probably like, there's a lot of guys that you need to pay. And with the second apron and how difficult they make it to like go over the luxury tax, or once you do go over the luxury tax, they make it difficult for you. So if you do get a Levine, or if you do get a Brandon Ingram, and you have to now pay Brandon Ingram and Cade, there's inevitably going to be people who you're not going to be able to keep because of that, just based on how expensive they are. So
yeah, you won't have a bench. That's
exactly
that's what it would be. It's like Cade's contract goes into effect next season. I believe it's $44 million.
Yeah.
And then Tobias is the second highest paid player, but it would be the last year of a $26 million deal. Then you got Stu, and then it keeps going down. Who knows what you give Ivy at the end of the year? I still think he's getting $100 million extension. That's just what I think.
Yeah, because as insane as it sounds, like $100 million in the NBA today isn't like a groundbreaking deal necessarily. So I think Jaden will get that. And like with him already being on pace for a career year before he hurt himself, like I think people see the potential there.
Yeah, I mean, someone said J.I. can be a better fit than Levine and cheaper. Like I've been telling people that like give Jaden Ivey a few years. Not saying they're the same athlete, but production wise, I think they could, average the same amount of points. I mean, he shot 40% from three. I think when he came back, he was shooting like 50% from three, which is just insane. Especially that game winner in Sacramento. Like that was crazy. Like I still watch that game from time to time. I was like, I don't even know how the hell that went in.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got Duren too up for an extension, and he
exactly like. And Duren, he's like in the best stretch of the season for him right now. Like he's been killing on the offensive boards. He's been playing pretty good defense and things. So this again, I know people have been like a little impatient with Duren because he's like in his third or fourth year, something like that, and he's only 21. Like, but the dude, he's so young. Like you can see he's starting to kind of slowly but surely put it together.
I think having Ausar helps him out a lot because doesn't have to worry about like weak side as much because Ausar usually has that on lock. But I mean, you have to pay Duren if you want to pay him. I mean, like if he has the months like these next 2 months, if he puts like 3 good months together, then you possibly have contract extension talks with not only him but Jaden Ivey as well to lock up your backcourt and lock up a starting center. Right. The Cade loves throwing lobs too. Like some of the lobs this guy catches, like I don't get it. Like one-handed dunks, it's insane.
Yeah, I asked Duren just about like the connection they have last night, and yeah, you could tell like all these dudes really like each other and they're friends really like in real life away from basketball.
Yeah, it's honestly cool to see because last year like all the losing they did, and like you could honestly tell like every game like it just seemed like they needed a hug because it was just like there was just like no coaching them up whatsoever. It's just like compared to JB, like I've never like the last time I saw a coach get that many technical fouls was probably Stan Van Gundy. Like that's how fired like JB is. Like JB is just like I can hear it on my TV, like dropping F-bombs at refs. And I was like, yo,
yeah, it's crazy. But he definitely does it and is like aware of how much that means to the players. Like Ausar earlier this year said that just sometimes they know that he'll argue calls that aren't right just to have their back. And that makes them want to play harder for him. So,
yeah, I mean, I think it was Ben Taylor in Brooklyn. And I think the mics in Brooklyn are a lot closer to the NBA floor. And he's like, out of all the fouls, you called that bullshit call? I was like, damn.
Honestly, like now that I'm able to like hear a little bit more and be closer to the game, like the refs have like elite patience because they'll let you cuss them out a little bit. Like you can cuss to a certain extent, but in me, I'm like the first like F word or whatever I hear, I'm like, you're out. Like, and these dudes like are taking that on a nightly basis. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, it's honestly crazy. I have a question from Lohi. I know I said that we'd wrap this up, but
I was just reading that.
Yeah. Do you think Ausar not in the dunker spot is the reason why we don't have consistent offensive play from him? If so, should we ask the question, who do you value more, Ausar or Duren?
That's a good question. I think Ausar in the dunker spot would be ideal, but obviously Duren isn't really like a stretch 5 guy, so there's not much room down there for Ausar to be in the dunker spot. But admittedly, I think Ausar can be so much more than just like a dunker spot guy. And we saw like a couple games ago in Indiana, like he initiated more offense probably than he had all season. And so I think they're like, for one, Ausar is kind of still just getting past that point where he can like play 30 minutes consistently. And so now that they're like you get past that checkpoint, it's now like exploring the things that he can do. And I think they are interested to see like what he can do as far as being the ball handler, creating for other people. So just kind of keeping him in the dunker spot, like he could be good there, but I think Ausar could be so much more than just like a dunker spot guy.
I will say they were using Ausar in the dunker spot last year with Monty, but obviously that's completely different systems with JB. I would just say like the way that you see Ron Holland and Ausar being used right now, it's mostly, you know, spotting up in the corner for 3, but I think that's just the way it is because you want to space out the floor.
Right.
I think the only thing I would nitpick with Ausar is I wish he had the confidence that Ron does, because Ron will just shoot it and he doesn't care. And I love it. I love the confidence.
Yeah, that's you see that in a lot of things too that Ron does. I was blanking on his name for some reason, but like just the way you can see sometimes in transition, you're like his mind is made up. He's going to the basket. And Ausar, I think, is like such a like I want to make the right play type of guy that he may feel like bad looking out for himself first. But I think they're going to continue to push him to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I saw, you know, last night watching the game, like he was bringing the ball up the court a lot more, initiating the offense, setting up the offense a lot more, which I had mentioned this summer, like you don't have a backup point guard. You might as well just kind of experiment with him, get him more comfortable bringing the ball up the court. But I wouldn't really, I know fans were asking me this last night when we did a post-game podcast, like at 10 o'clock at night about Ausar and like, should we be worried about his production? I really don't think he should. I think the way he's defending right now, the way he's being active, scrapping for rebounds. He does so many little things that don't really show up in the box score. And I think it's just box score watchers with some fans because they look at like 2 points and, you know, maybe 2 or 3 shots the game. But I feel like he impacts the game in so many ways that don't show up in like a stat sheet.
Yeah. And I think too, like it might be as just being a fan, like you're not as aware that he like really, like I just said, like he's just getting to the point where he can play 30 minutes a night consistently. And there were times where he would ask to come out of the game because he would be so tired. And I think now he's just kind of slowly but surely getting into like form essentially.
Yeah. Devon, no, I don't think we can get Turner anymore. That was a pipe dream.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, unless we want to pay him in Legos, I don't know. Like, I really don't.
Yeah, I think that ship has probably sailed. I don't think anyone from Indiana wants to come over here.
Yeah, I mean, that was a pipe dream that I had when Duran was really struggling, but he's put it together more. And like, he had like a 15-footer the other, I think last week. I was like, yo, like, where is that? I see you practice that every pregame, but I've never seen you shoot 15-footers. Like, I know it's in the bag.
Yeah, there was a video, somebody tweeted about how Duran turned into Kyrie like in the summer league. There was a video I saw on Twitter of that. And like I was sitting there and I was like, I might quote tweet it, but like he actively still works on those things like daily. So none of that has really left him. Like Duran is in there working on pull-ups. He's working on like his handle and stuff. So that's still there. He just doesn't get to do it.
Yeah, I think it's more of just like a coaching thing of like JB wants him to do XYZ. And if he kind of goes out, like I saw people on Twitter, they can get like really toxic. He brought the ball up the court and everyone's like, never do that again. Never do that again. I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah, go ahead. What were you about to say?
I was just gonna say, like, some people like they don't like the point Duran. They just want him to grab rebounds and set screens and catch lobs.
Yeah, it's funny because I see him every time he gets a rebound and there's an opportunity for him to take the ball, he wants to so bad. And then like if a guard runs by and they're like, JD, like give me the ball, JD, like he'll pass it, but like you can see he wants to be like in his point guard, like big guard bag really bad, but he just can't.
I know that there was a play in Indiana where he did not pass the ball and like Tyrese Halliburton made a business decision because he didn't want to be in a poster.
Yeah.
And he dunked it. I can't remember who he dunked it on. I want to say it was Ben Shepherd or something like that.
I kind of remember this, yeah. But Duran is just a funny guy.
Yeah. I guess to follow up on the question about Ausar being in a dunker spot, Lohi says, I only say that because of a man has the opportunity even more, but maybe I should stop trying to compare him to his brother.
Yeah. I feel that like Amin he's really, I think probably just a little bit more comfortable offensively now because he's had more reps, but um yeah, I don't know. Them being twins, like obviously it's natural to draw those comparisons, so I completely feel that. But yeah, I don't know if their games are exactly the same, but Ausar is still just so fresh in like exploring what he can do because of the blood clots obviously set him back.
Yeah, I mean he's still trying to get into like basketball shape. I mean, like, watching from home on TV, like you can see like him trying to catch his breath. And like obviously like fans want him to play like 30, 35 minutes, but I think it's just a conditioning thing right now. For him to, get back into like being in basketball shape. Because I think some fans don't understand you can be in shape, but basketball shape is a completely different thing. Like go play at LA Fitness and run like, 5-on-5 for like 10 minutes and then come back to me saying like, yeah, dude, I'm out of shape. I'm fat as hell. Like,
yeah, I mean, and it's like I think people, you kind of like take for granted, what Cade does, because he's like out there like essentially like 40 minutes a game. I don't know how many minutes he averages, but for Cade to be able to do that, like you have to be in peak, like insane shape. But yeah, it's like Asar's just working his way back. He's trying to get his wind and trying to figure out what he can do still.
Yeah, same here. I think some fans just they're just so excited about this team being competitive, being a 6 seed as of right now because Orlando lost the game. I don't know if they lost to Utah because I think my phone died on me. I could check, but pretty sure that they did drop to Utah tonight. But overall, it's like this team is probably the most competitive since like the Blake Griffin era. During the rebuild, man, it was drastic. Like trying to come up here and hype up second round picks, like it's crazy.
Yeah, and then I also see like just one question about Asar's minutes. Like I basically am saying like he's at the point now where he's reached that he's like reached the 30-minute threshold essentially. So I think he can play as many minutes as he needs to now, but they're still just like kind of working him into form.
Yeah, same here. Blood clots are a really scary thing. It's good that they caught it early because like you could get a pulmonary embolism and then gets into your lungs and die that way. I'm glad that they were able to detect it very early, but don't want to harp on him too much because I feel like he's been big bright spot defensively, especially with like the way that they've been playing defense, especially in the month of January. Like you look at the Pistons like defensive numbers and they were like middle of the pack, almost back to like that top 10 defense that they were playing early on in November. But we can wrap this podcast up if you want. We've been on for about an hour. What's that?
I'm fine. I love talking basketball, so it's all good.
Well, we can do another question. Drew wanted to know who's impressed you the most this season.
That is a good question. I can't say Cade. That's too easy of an answer. And I also knew he was really good, but I would say before he got hurt, Jaden Ivey was the one who impressed me the most. I like had watched him. Some of my best friends are Pistons fans, so we talked about him, and I noticed just how fast he was, and it seemed like he was always kind of that fast. It didn't really seem like he was changing gears too much, but this season it seems like he slowed down. He was hunting threes at one point, like he was actively seeking them out off the dribble. He seems really comfortable from three, and so it sucks that like he obviously had to get hurt that way, but to me, Jaden Ivey was like the person I personally was most impressed with because when he was like really good, like he was pretty good this season. So
Yeah, I can't say I'm surprised by Ivy because I see all the work he puts in.
Yeah.
Like, work ethic is like off the charts.
Mhm.
I would say Tobias has impressed me.
Okay.
And the one area that he's impressed me in is the rebounding. I
Mm.
didn't expect the rebounding. I think defensively, he, like, among the fan base, they look at the contract and think he's supposed to average 30 a night. But
Yeah.
I think even JB said it in the presser, like, he's a good, like, security blanket for these guys and for him. And I think they showed like an on-off rating, and like the Pistons are like -53 when he's not playing, and like almost like a +100 when he's on the court. So like
Yeah.
his impact does matter. I just need him to hit a couple more corner threes.
Yeah. That's pretty much what it is. He's like a consistent dude, I'd say. Like, you kind of know what you're gonna get most times. But there can be games where it's just like not rolling for him and it seems tough. But uh the guys love him, JB loves him. So I mean, he's good for this team.
Yeah, he's a good bet. I wasn't like really like too upset that they went out and got him. It was just like a price point of like, don't pay him like 40-50 million dollars. But
Yeah.
I felt like they got him at a pretty good price for like the type of player he is and where he's at in his career. Like, I saw like a wild stat that like he's got more points, rebounds, blocks than Jimmy Butler and Paul George this season,
I
which
saw that.
was not on my bingo book. I was
Right.
like, wow, really? That's
Funny.
crazy, because I know Sixers fans, they said we want Tobias Harris back.
Yeah.
They
I
don't
bet
want
Philly is that's an unfortunate situation.
Yeah, they don't want the podcast P. They're good. They're good. I know we talked about this like before we went on. That Nate saw the same report we did from Evan Sedry, citing a radio show out in Arizona, about like Ingram. The way it was worded, it sounded like the Pistons may or may not trade for Ingram, but like the more you read it, it sounds like they might have a deal in place with the Pelicans. Like, I could pull up their roster. Do you think there's anyone like kind of like below that like 5 million, maybe 6 million like dollar mark that they may or may not be interested in?
I'm actually gonna look that up myself. I'm not too familiar with their like salaries. But yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think, obviously, the way it was worded, like you said, I don't think it would be Brandon Ingram. But yes, I have some salary. Oh, well, I don't think the Pelicans are going to get rid of Jordan Hawkins. I really like his game. He only makes $4.5 million. But yeah, I don't know. That would be an interesting one. I'm not sure how that could go. Brendan, like I said, Jordan Hawkins I'm a fan of his, but I'm not sure.
I like Jose Alvarado just because he's a dog.
Mm-hmm.
There's a relationship there with Trajan, obviously, like identifying him as a player that went undrafted. And he's on like a really cheap deal from what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
Like under 2 mil or something like that, or something crazy. But
yeah, I don't know. That could potentially be a good one. I'm not sure like where the report came from, or like Evan. I know we said it was him, but yeah, I don't know. That could be a good one. I don't think, like you said in this one, Nate, like it didn't sound worded as if they would get BI, but yeah, you had mentioned my man Jose Alvarado, Anthony. So possibly.
Yeah. Oh, let me see, because I'll just go on Fanspo, because like I was looking at their roster before we went on, because obviously you're not going to touch Zion. You're not going to touch BI. I feel like CJ would be like an all-in move, because 33 million. He's got 2 years left on his deal.
Right. It's like,
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to CJ, because I feel like he could play next to Cade, and he wouldn't really like. He doesn't need the ball to be effective, because he's pretty good in the catch and shoot. But I think 33 million would kind of hard cap you, and you probably lose Malik Beasley in that situation, in free agency. Trey Murphy to me would probably be a dream because he's on a 5-year, $5.1 million deal. It looks like. Herb Jones is a little pricey, but I'm sure he's very expensive.
Yeah.
Jordan Hawkins, like you mentioned, I was really big on Hawkins in the draft, but he's kind of been underwhelming with them. I don't know. They just got some guys on their roster where I'm looking at it and I'm like, I'm not really sure if any of these guys would really make a whole lot of sense.
And that's kind of my biggest thing. I'm like, unless there's a trade that is significantly going to make this team better, like if you're kind of just trading like apples for oranges and it's like, not really too much of a difference here, I'm very much on the just let it be. Like let it be what it is now and don't make a move.
Yeah, I had no idea how bad their cap space was and like how much they're invested into 4 guys. Now that I'm looking at it, like I can see why they have 12 wins.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I mean, at least they have beignets down there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like, because I went in, I listened to that radio show that Evan Sedry had cited, and they were taking reports from Mark Stein because he has a paywall on his Substack. And Jake Fisher's reporting. So apparently that's where it came from, a newsletter that they wrote. And I guess it was like, do the Pelicans trade for Jimmy Butler? Which I was just like, yeah, no. Like, and then it came into a thing of like, Pelicans are going to try to get rid of Brandon Ingram at the deadline. And if they can't, they have a smaller deal in place to possibly trade with the Pistons. And I'm just like, looking at like their cap sheet right now, like I don't really see, like, outside of maybe like a Trey Murphy or a Herb Jones, like those are probably 2 guys that I'm most interested in. Trey Murphy especially, just the way that he can shoot the ball. I feel like that would be such a good fit. Kind of like a Cam Johnson light, if you will.
I can see that. That's a good comparison.
Yeah, but I don't know, like this time of year, like when people are citing like radio shows, don't really know like how. I don't want to like take anything away from Evan's like reporting like whatsoever, but like I've been bit once or twice from some of the reportings from him, like having like podcast topics on here, and it usually doesn't come true. Yeah, especially with like the Bojan stuff last year. Because I still remember him saying, yeah, like the Pistons are looking for 3 firsts for Bojan, and like they traded him for like Quentin Grimes.
Yeah, 3 firsts are crazy. Like,
yeah, like I don't even know. Like that's honestly really crazy. How realistic is Booker deal this offseason? Is he what we need? I mean, I'll let you take that one because like I won't be nice about it.
I'm not sure how much Devin Booker is making, but to me, it would make just not any sense to pay him as much as he would be worth. I think that would probably stunt the growth of Cade, a lot of younger guys who could get more reps on ball. And Devin Booker just like is in a point in his career, I think, where he's probably trying to not build so much and be in like a win now situation. So yeah, I would say probably not really realistic for Devin Booker, and I wouldn't want that to like take away from Cade and his growth.
Yeah, like I think Devin Booker, as people that watch this podcast know, that like he's a pipe dream. Even though Phoenix is, I think, underperforming given their salary.
Yeah.
I could so see them like saying like, hey, Philly, we'll give you Bradley Beal for Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
Like I could totally see that happening. I don't know why. I could just see Philly saying, you know, like we've had enough of this like whole experiment. Like we're just gonna retool and rebuild. But I think they would trade Bradley Beal before they trade Devin Booker. And I don't think the Pistons have the assets to even trade for Devin Booker, because it would probably, the conversation would be, give us Cade Cunningham and we'll talk.
Yeah, like I don't, Cade and Devin Booker on the same team. Like I don't know.
I mean, I feel like it could work, but I feel like where Devin's at in his career, he thrives with the ball in his hands and, just scoring and facilitating. I think the only reason why him and KD work so well together, because KD's just the bucket. You can put him in any system.
Yeah, you can put anybody. Like,
yeah, I just don't see Devin Booker as a realistic target. Maybe when he's like 35, 36 and he wants to have like that Pistons reunion, like a T-Mac reunion in Detroit. But like I just don't see that happening. I could totally see like Draymond Green and Devin Booker when they're like 38, 39 on the Pistons.
Yeah, that'd be pretty good.
Yeah, like I just can't see it. Like I know some people want him here, but like I'm trying not to be a dick, but it's just like, come on, you guys. Like every year, like, well, we should trade for Booker. You don't have the assets for Booker.
Yeah. That's tough.
Yeah, but we can wrap this up. I know some people are going crazy right now. I can't believe we have 1,000 people in here right now. And
yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, we have over 1,000 people watching us, and Royal Rumble's going on right now. Which is,
that's crazy. Shouts out to you and the community you built, bro. That's amazing.
Oh man, it's honestly crazy. Like sometimes I just wake up, I'm like, I don't know how the hell I've built this. Like I had a Cade Cunningham picture blow up for no damn reason. Yeah. It was like him in Detroit Dust.
Okay.
For like no reason. It's got like 50,000 likes. Like I was like, there's no reason why this should have 50,000 likes. I was just trolling. Like that's honestly hilarious.
That's cool, man. Yeah, and I mean, to any of the people listening, like, feel free to hit me up. Like, if you have questions about things or like things you want to see stories written about, whatever. I've recently moved here. I love Detroit so far. So, yeah, feel free to hit me up.
Do you have any thing you're working on? As like, I know trade deadlines and it's going to end in 5 days. Are there any pieces that you're working on right now that you want to promote?
Not anything I could like just talk about too soon yet. There's still things like I'm working on behind the scenes for sure. But yeah, I mean, there will be some things coming soon. So.
Okay. Well, we do have your Twitter in the description below. So if you guys want to follow Hunter, he does a really good job of, covering the team. I feel like I want to give you kudos. Ever since we learned that Cade has like a custom shoe, you have been on it like crazy. Like every time I scroll, it's just like Cade's new custom whites. I was just like, yo, like I need some Cade Cunningham Nike shoes when he does get a shoe deal, because they look crazy.
I think it's like, to me, I could see it kind of brewing. I wasn't really sure if anyone else could, and I wanted to like be one of the first people to talk about it, because you could see Cade is like coming into his own. He's like starting to be, he's an all-star now. He had a logo on the shoes. He would come with different colorways. So I'm like, okay, this is like maybe starting to be something. And now it's like he had like the best colorway I've ever seen at practice today. It was crazy. And so I'm like intentionally every day looking to see like what he has on his feet.
So someone like broke down the logo. I don't know if you saw this. So if you look at his logo really closely, it actually spells out Cade.
Oh wow, no, I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, like the little logo on his shoe, like you can connect the C to the A to the D to the E. Like,
damn, yeah, I've seen like how it was like a CC, but if it also spells out Cade, that's fire. So that's really cool.
Like low key, that's probably like it. That's probably the best logo I've seen on a shoe in quite some time.
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah, I mean, I think the last Piston sneaker I bought were Air Force One receipts. So it's been a minute since.
Yeah.
And those things are freaking bricks. Swear. Those are not hoop shoes.
Yeah, I bet.
No, I mean, it's like wearing Timberlands on your feet trying to hoop in those. Like, it's just not ideal. They look good, but they're not hoop shoes at all. But I hope Cade does get a signature sneaker, because
yeah, I think with the way like the league is pushing him, and seems like everybody's starting to notice. Like I could for sure see him having a shoe.
Yeah, I mean, I think Giannis has a shoe. Ja has a shoe, I think. I'm not sure if he does. I know Anthony Edwards has got his. Donovan Mitchell. I mean, yeah, I think he deserves a shoe, even though if it is with Nike, I think it'll be pretty cool. They'll probably like feel like Kobe's. I know like his first couple of years, like that's all he would wear is like Kobe 5s, Kobe 4s. I know he was kind of like switching in between like the Sabrina Nikes as well. So
yeah.
Like I said, you've done a really good job with it. Like I wasn't even paying attention to it until like I'll like go on Getty Images because they'll like take a picture and I'm like looking at the logo. I was like, oh, that's what he's talking about. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, so I'm like, hopefully for Cade, like he ends up getting a shoe, and that'd be pretty cool. So he's I like the colorways and how the shoe looks. I like low top basketball shoes, so pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay, I saw the comment you posted before you deleted it. That's funny. I'm just gonna read it because it's not anything crazy. Cade isn't gonna be doing Cure Auto. He's gonna be doing State Farm next. Because someone said he looked like a State Farm agent on TNT, like trying to sell insurance.
Oh yeah, with the black jacket. That's funny.
Yeah. I saw who commented that. I just saw your comment, Rick. That was actually funny, man. I don't know why you deleted it, but yeah, I think Cade might be getting a little bit too big for Cure. I think he's going to be up there with CP3 and Cliff Paul doing State Farm commercials eventually. I
definitely see that. And Cade is like, he has like this like kind of like nonchalant personality about him that I think draws people to him. So I definitely see him being like marketable.
Yeah, same here. But we'll wrap this podcast up. We've been on for about an hour and 20 minutes. Got 1,000 people in here. So if you guys haven't already followed Hunter, definitely go do that. His Twitter link is in the description below. And make sure you guys are listening or not listening or watching, reading his articles over at The Athletic. I literally still have an Athletic subscription I got a credit card. Like, you know, when you like sign up for cable, it's still being used for like the Athletic subscription. We're going on like 2 years of Alex like still using it. Like it's honestly like I have so many subscriptions to the point where I was like, oh man, I got to read like 5 of your articles and I haven't been able to keep up. It's like crap.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely trying to get as many stories and articles out as possible. So yeah, trying to get on it.
It's honestly like so hard to keep up. Predict the Pistons final seeding. I think they get the 8th seed. That's just me.
Since you said 8th, I don't want to like I can't go with the same one. I'll say I'll go 7.
Yeah, I see them getting a little tired towards the end, especially like March, April. But I could be wrong. Maybe they go on another 5-6 game winning streak, but their schedule does soften up a little bit. They do have to see Cleveland again, which I'm sure that's going to be a very interesting game. But do appreciate you guys watching, even though Royal Rumble's going on right now, which I had no idea was happening. But we'll see you guys next week, and maybe we'll have some new players on this team. Maybe we won't. You never know. Take care, you guys. Peace.